Hey, welcome to week 3 of History 103, class in which we cover kind of the last 250 years or so. So this chapter we are talking about nationalism and revolutions in nation building, 1848 to 1871, so it's kind of a sliver of the 19th century. This week is a research week. Week 3 is a research week, just like week 2 was. Sorry I can't alternate between discussion weeks and research weeks. Last week turned out to be very convenient to be a research week, and this week is going to be as well too. But week 4 we will get back to a discussion week with discussion boards. Probably before you dive into chapter 21, it would make sense to return to chapter 20. Page 673 begins kind of a short little discussion of nationalism. Chapter 21 is very much about nationalism and the idea or the ideas of the nation. And it would make sense to return to that and review that section about nationalism. But as chapter 21 tells you, the idea of the nation was really kind of a liberal sort of idea that arose with the French Revolution. And basically the idea was that the nation, the people, the population were sovereign. The idea of popular sovereignty. So the idea is that it's not the monarch, it's not the aristocracy, it's not the elite who are sovereign, who have the final say, right? It's the people who do. This is a very much kind of a bottom-up kind of idea of the nation, right? I mean, what's important about the nation is the people themselves as opposed to the monarch, the king, or the queen. So it makes sense then when you think about the French Revolution that the French revolutionaries would emphasize values such as equality, right, and fraternity, brotherhood. Those are values that would not have been valued in a conservative, autocratic sort of monarchy, right? Only a democracy, the French Republic, right, would espouse the idea of equality, that every individual is equal, at least in the eyes of the law. And fraternity, we all are one big brotherhood. But as the chapter tells you, conservatives quickly learned how to love nationalism as well too, and they created kind of a top-down idea of the nation. And they saw nationalism as a centripetal force, so bringing people together, aligning themselves with the nation state. So nationalists such as Bismarck, right, of Germany, Count Cavour of Italy, though they are leaders of autocratic states, right, rather than democracies like the French Republic was, saw the nation as the people who shared a language, a history, right, a culture, right, a geography, right, and an ethnicity. Right. And if they shared all these things, then the idea is, well, maybe we should all be in the same nation state. Maybe we shouldn't be scattered amongst a handful of nations. Let's bring all these people together inside a single border, right, under the aegis or under the leadership of a single leader, or a Congress or legislature, something like that. So the idea of the nation state that we think about today is really a 19th century invention, right? This kind of fusion of nation, right? A people more or less homogeneous, right? But the idea is they share more similarities than they do differences. Right? So fusion of the nation and the state, all right? That sovereign governmental entity that has borders and whose existence is respected by adjacent and other sorts of nation states. And so this allows someone like Garibaldi to say, Italy for Italians, or Bismarck to say Germany for Germans. All right. So Garibaldi, let's create a single nation state in which all Italians reside. All right. Or Bismarck, let's create a single nation state, Germany, which all Germans reside in. On page 677, you'll find mention of this idea of the nation state as an imagined community. And I would encourage you to pay special attention to that paragraph, that kind of column. It's an interesting idea put forward by a scholar by the name of Benedict Anderson, who's not named there. But the idea is that a political community, like a nation state, is better conceived of as an imagined community, right? Almost a fictional sort of a community. And one of the reasons why that's important is because it helps us make sense of one little fact that's pointed out in the paragraph above, and that fact is that when Italy was created, only 2.5% of Italians spoke Italian. Right? Well, so where's the homogeneity idea of all these individuals of sharing a language which didn't exist? So Anderson is helpful because he gives this idea of the political community as a result of the powers of the mind, all right, of the imagination. And it might help to kind of throw in another kind of idea, which is that the community is constructed. It doesn't come about naturally. It needs to be constructed by humans. So a nation state is not something that naturally exists, all right, but it is constructed by humans. So how is it constructed? Well, that chapter talks about the various ways. All right, it talks about through education efforts, all right, giving everyone, or at least the most quote unquote important individuals, a similar sort of education, making sure that everyone speaks a common dominant language. Writing history books talking about the great achievements of the nation state and its heroes. Right? National holidays. Think about Thanksgiving or something. So national holidays, a special time in which individuals of the nation state can come together and celebrate as one. Statues of national heroes. All right. Memorials. All right. National cemeteries. All right. State-run news outlets, right? State-run arts efforts, right? Required military service, all right? In most cases, male, right, has to serve in the military. So all of these efforts, all right, are attempts to construct a people, right, who share more similarities than they share differences. All right, we all think that we are a homogeneous people. We're all a community, as opposed to disparate peoples who are spread spread throughout a nation state. Right? And all of these forces, including kind of a nationalist sort of rhetoric, all right, create this kind of shared community feeling. That's the same thing with America as well, too. As much as we might think that we feel American, that's kind of a natural state. It's very much a constructed feeling, a constructed idea. All right, and I think we all can kind of understand that if any one of us were born in Russia, all right, or India, all right, you would have been constructed as an Indian. You would have been constructed as a Russian, and you would love Mother Russia or love India, whatever it may be. All right. So the idea that you are constructed to your identity is constructed, right, depending on where you live and where you're educated, where you grow up. So when you hear Americans bash immigrants, right, those South Americans who are coming through the border, speaking Spanish and bringing their culture, right? Their un-American culture. So the ultimate historical origin for that is the 19th century. All right, those sort of nationalist kind of ideas in which the people are homogeneous. All right, they share, all right, similarities more than differences. All right, so xenophobes are those individuals who don't like immigrants. Right, they fear Spanish speakers, right, influencing an English-speaking America, or Spanish speakers bringing a culture that might conflict or differ in some way from a dominant American culture. So the first kind of half of this chapter talks about kind of the pre-1848 kind of revolution. And you'll want to pay attention to that because you'll want to talk about that in your paper for the week. And that's kind of the liberal sort of revolution, all right, liberal idea of the nation, all right. And then the rest of the chapter kind of talks about kind of post-1848 revolution. That's the conservative kind of nationalism, all right, creating nation states, fusing people together, all right. And kind of last thing, so if you look at page 701, and this is going to be related to your essay for the week, there's that map of 701 of Europe, but primarily of Austro-Hungarian Empire. And you look at that empire, and it shows you the various language groups that are in that empire. And you can look at that. There's Slovak, there's Hungarian, there's Croat, there's Bosnian, there's Hungarian, there's Ukrainian, there's Czech, there's German. All right. I mean, nearly, I'm sure there were at least a dozen different languages. So the essay that you're writing this week, it puts you into the shoes of a conservative political strategist, right, who looks down on that map and sees all sorts of opportunities for creating a new nation state out of the territories of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So enjoy the week, and we will see you next time around.